think it's awesome that you were able to join so spontaneously.
Yeah.
Um, I to give the listeners a little bit of context, we met at Zach Horvath's, if I'm pronouncing your last name right, Zach. Um, Live a Great Story night. It was, I think, his first one,
Yeah.
and I had talked to you. Well, one, you had a really cool story. You were on stage. I think there was like three people that specifically went on stage, and then so this is essentially a big gathering in Zach's backyard, like 30, 40 people. And three or four people will go on stage, and then there's breakout groups, just to like you get two themes and you have to pick a story based on that theme. And you went up on stage and had a really cool story, which we can definitely get into. And then towards the end of the night, I remember we just kind of connected as we were leaving.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how, like, I can't, like recall everything, but we were just like walking out and I was like expressing how I wanted to start some kind of creative endeavor. And I didn't know what to do. I'm into music here and there. I've produced music. I've made some songs on Spotify and other platforms here and there. And then I stopped and I saw what you were doing, gave you a follow, and saw your photography, and I was like just blown away. I've also gone into photography here and there, but I use a Nikon. Trying to remember the exact camera, D3200 maybe. And I was using that for a bit, and then I would cheat and I would use my iPhone,
Hmm.
you know. Um, but so we connected then, and I think I'm trying to remember exactly the month of last year that was. I think it was maybe like late quarter one,
Probably.
maybe April or May. And since then, we've just connected or stayed connected through social media, so Instagram. And I've just watched your journey. Um, you're a photographer, and you have really interesting messages that are simple, but they're deep, and they can provide just kind of a sense of peace for people. At least for me, when I look at your photography, and I was going through almost all of your content. So it's really cool that you just kind of messaged me the other day, and we were able to like just put this together last second. And happy that you can come on and tell some stories, man. So I think it'd be cool to just maybe start off giving just like a personal background wherever you want to start, and then we can just kind of get into like specific parts of your journey because you've been all over the country. The pictures in Montana, man, those were pretty dope.
Yeah, I love Montana.
Yeah,
Pretty much moving there.
yeah,
Um,
I don't blame you.
Living in a car down by the river, like literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up as a son of a coach. My dad was a strength coach. He's one of the OG strength conditioning coaches. Like was the first strength coach for the Dallas Mavericks,
Mm.
and then was also the speed coach for the Dallas Cowboys in the early '90s when they were winning Super Bowls and stuff. And so I grew up in this environment of like it was an unknown field, and I'm a kid, so I really don't grasp anything. I don't know the difference between like my varsity high school football team and the Dallas Cowboys. To me, they're like just both big people. And so I grew up in that environment, really not understanding anything because it was like just a new field and it wasn't popularized. There was no Google, there was no social media. So it was just kind of what I knew. And so I was like, I'm going to be an athlete, clearly. Like, I want to play in the NFL. It's all I knew.
Hmm.
Went through high school, played college football at UTEP, got a cup of coffee with the Buffalo Bills, switched to do bobsled. My dad was also a speed coach for the U.S. skeleton team.
Hmm.
And so I just was like exposed to sports at that level. And it was just, I identified as like, well, I'm these people too.
Hmm.
Um, and once did the bobsledding thing, U.S. bobs. I lived at the Olympic Training Center for a little while, and then switched back to football and played in this league called the UFL, and that was around for a few years. Really cool experience. Had some like our coach was Dennis Green, and my quarterback was Dante Culpepper. I don't know if anyone
Yeah.
knows football.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big.
That's cool.
For a few years, they tried to really make it a thing.
Yeah.
And we had dope halftime shows. Like I think Nelly played at one of our halftime shows. Like literally,
Yeah.
it was like weird. Flow Rida, like crazy.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. And then my career was ended by a really bad series of concussions. So like traumatic brain injuries, which actually blurred my vision in my left eye for about a decade, and I'll get into that story, but I fixed it through biohacking. But yeah, I left that, went into entrepreneurship, partnered up with a buddy, and my dad and I will started a sports equipment company, just clueless about entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
Um, Basically raised a bunch of money to start a company. You could start with Alibaba now for nothing, like a Shopify site. But back then, it's like,
Yeah.
there was no. I don't think Alibaba was up yet. But anyway, got into that, switched to an agency, started creating content with like Uber, and then in the early days in Dallas, expanded that, and then kept going entrepreneurship, got into tech, started a company, and then the pandemic, right when I was peaking and like crushing it, pandemic robbed us of everything, and then got an adventure.
Mm.
That's like the synopsis of everything,
Mhm.
and there's all these little micro stories along the way. But yeah, started in sports, switched to entrepreneurship, and then I've just slowly embraced kind of like this artist side,
Yeah.
because I grew up in Dallas, where you're motivated by money. It's a very materialistic background,
Yeah.
and so I wasn't able to like embrace that kind of starving artist mentality. I was like, well, now I gotta go make a living.
Mhm.
And so now I'm finally like making up for lost time in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was gonna ask if you're from Texas, so you already answered that.
There you go.
Yeah, I'd love to get into, some of the micro stories. So I did see, as I was going through your content, you alongside it seems like the mainstream of your expression through photography is just nature, right now. But there are glimpses of interviewing. You had a podcast at one point, and you also yeah, I saw a specific like something that resonated with your heart, it seems, because of your head injury. You had a picture that was showing you were doing a podcast, I think, or an interview with, um, someone that was speaking to TBI. Um, it was a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah. I went deep. I scrolled all the way down, man, into your Instagram. And so, I don't know if you feel called to share, like, losing vision and talking about that.
Yeah, that was crazy. I had a couple concussions. Basically, like I had this one really bad concussion in a game, and I was like throwing up on the sideline, doing all
Ooh.
this stuff. Like coming off the field, it was one of those things. It was on a punt. We were playing in Las Vegas. I was with the Sacramento Mountain Lions back in the day,
Mm.
and none of them exist anymore. But I got just kneed. I was covering a punt. I dove for the guy. Another guy dove to block me. His knee went right into my head, and I was knocked unconscious.
Oh.
And I had no idea I was knocked unconscious. So I hopped right back up. So I thought. And
Oh,
I'm like
man.
jogging off on the sideline, and all the trainers are running out. And I'm like looking back to be like, oh, did someone get hurt? And they came up to me and they're like, dude, you okay? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm fine. They're like, dude, you were just out on the ground. I'm like, what? I had no idea.
Wow.
And I was like, no, I'm totally fine. I was fine. And they're like, all right. And they just nothing. And I
Mm.
just was like, after a while, like I threw up and like went out there and snapped the game winning field goal, and we won. And then for about a year, I had this really roller coaster of post concussion syndrome.
Mm.
And it was not pretty. And there's a lot of darkness that goes in with that. And like if you look at Wikipedia and just Google like post concussion syndrome, it's
Mm.
like that is exactly what I experienced. And,
Do you wanna get into that?
yeah, we can. I'll fast forward a little bit though, because like I did that whole thing,
Mhm.
whole year, came back, played another season, and then I had another concussion.
Oh.
Barely hit. Like routine play. You wouldn't even see it. You'd be like, "Are you kidding me?" Like I literally just there's nothing.
Mhm.
But like you're so prone to them. The more you get, the more
Mhm.
susceptible you
Yeah.
are. And so I remember undressing because like that one I was out.
Yeah.
Like not unconscious, but like I jogged off on the sideline and I was like unresponsive. Like people were yelling at me and I'm just sitting there
Mhm.
like I have no idea where I am.
Yeah.
And they pulled my helmet and I look on the field. I'm like, oh, I got to run. Someone else is doing my play. And I'm like, why? Why? And they're like, dude, you've been out. Like I had no idea what was
Yeah,
going
that's so
on.
scary.
And so I started kind of coming to because they did the balancing test and I couldn't stand up straight. I couldn't do anything.
Mhm.
And I'm in the locker room and I just remember like taking off my pads really slowly because I was like, this is the last time I'm doing this. Like, this is it. I just knew it was over because I was on in and out of like these NFL opportunities, like I was like
Mhm.
kind of the next guy up. And I was like, no, I'm done. Like, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that post concussion shit again. And so I just took my pads off really slow and kind of like took mental images of the room, the people around. And I have like all these like images of like, there's like Steve Baylark, this guy I played with. I'm seeing JD and like I can remember
Mhm.
guys in the room and like Coach Green walking. Like I just like remember that scene,
Mhm.
and I was very intentional on being like present because I'm like, this is it. I want to like remember the last moment that I ever put on football pads, and so did that. And I was sitting in bed one day watching Friends, as I do, and
Great show.
yeah, and like prior to this moment, I had like, if you ever wake up in the morning, you kind of have that haze in your eye, and you just kind of like wipe your eyes and slowly your vision kind of clears up.
Mhm.
I felt like that hazy look constantly. Like
Mm.
I was like, why is my hazy? And then one day I was like laying there at an angle and everything was clear as I was watching TV. And I was like, why is it like the haze is gone? And then I got up and it was back. And it was this weird, like if I strained my eye, vision was clear. And if it was relaxed, it was blurry. And then I realized, "Oh shit, my vision's not good.
Mm.
Like, something's wrong." So then I finally got, like, a test, and they're like, "Yeah, your left eye has diplopia, it's blurred vision," and I'm like, "Oh, so one eye's clear, one eye's blurry. That's why it's, like, hazy," where I'm like, "Why is it, like,
Mm.
kinda clear but not? Because one eye was jacked." And dude, I went a whole year like that, not knowing. It was just like it was, like, a year until I got glasses. So I wore glasses for 10 years, or s yeah, for 10 years, and, but that post-concussion experience is you basically injure your brain, so you don't have access to all the parts of it.
Mhm.
So the stuff that would handle like stress, emotion, love, hunger, even like just literally everything, you're kind of having to reroute these functions to different parts of your
Wow.
brain, as I understand it.
Yeah.
And so stuff that's really not equipped to handle things is having to like compensate. And so I had migraines every day for at least a year. Um, and so you'd be laying there. I would work from home and I'm getting in this creative entrepreneur space. I'm trying to learn and
When did this what year was this?
like 2012,
O
2011,
okay.
back then. It's like 10, 12 years ago, something
Okay.
like that. Been a minute.
Mhm.
I'm getting old. Um, and I would be in the room and trying to work, get a migraine, and I have to lay down for like 45 minutes to let this thing pass.
Mhm.
Cause like it's an intense migraine. Migraines are not headaches. It is your
Um,
everything. Your vision's bad, your personality changes, your focus is impossible. Like, it's
mm.
just a migraine is a debilitating thing. And, I would lay in bed and put, like, pillows over my ears because I could hear the air condition or a bird chirping outside, and it's like someone is screaming in my ear, like
Wow.
nails on the chalkboard. And all you're thinking during these times is like the pressure in your head, like you feel like pressure, like intent, and you go dark and you literally are like, I just want to put a bullet through my head to
Mm.
just relieve all this. And so when I see these guys in the NFL, like a Junior Seau or whatever, it's like, fuck, man, I get it. And I don't want to get it,
Mm.
but I do. Like,
Mm.
I understand where your head's at. And I experienced that for like a full year. And while I'm trying to, like in the first year where I didn't have glasses, I'm trying to learn like video editing. I guess is when I was teaching myself video
Mm.
editing. So I'm in like Final Cut Pro and Adobe After Effects. I'm trying to learn motion graphics, all this stuff. And I would put like a hat on like I have on and then like just a piece of paper over my left eye so I could see the screen. Cause like if I try to focus with one, like, you have like bifocals, like
Mhm.
different, I had one, no glasses at this time. I have one blurry eye, one clear eye. So when you're looking at a computer screen for like 5 to 10 hours or
Mhm.
plus, that's when migraines would get triggered. And so I would just go one eye. So I just would like not have to do this back and
Mhm.
forth focus. And for a long period of time, you don't have access to your brain. You feel like you're trying to focus, and you get a migraine. And there would be times where, like, have you ever been in like a garage in the middle of summer? It's pitch black when you walk into the garage, like from your house or something. And then you open the garage and that light just pours
Mhm.
in and it's like
Mhm.
all of a sudden you can see everything, but it takes a minute. That's how my brain felt. Where like I'm in this dark garage, but then every once in a while, it would open and the light would come in, and it would be open for, like, a day or 2, and I, like, wouldn't sleep because I would have access to my brain. I would just be up all night, like, learning, flow state, just it was like bipolar. It was like just
Mm,
this manic depressive state for a long time, and I would just be obsessively learning and designing and blah, and then just that door would close,
mm.
and I'm, like, trying to get an hour or 2 a day of anything productive, like, productivity.
So that
Just
door would close for how long? Like a long period of time?
yeah,
Months?
like,
Or
oh, 3, 4 days to a week,
okay.
where it's like every day you're piecing together, like, "Okay, I gotta get this done. Alright, I got a migraine. Okay, I gotta get this done." You're just, like,
Mm,
literally, like, kinda crawling through, like, like army crawling through the
yeah.
day.
And the hack was just covering one of your eyes
That
when
was like a Band-Aid for
right.
periods of
Yeah.
time
It's
where
not a biohack,
it's like,
but
"I need, like, 20 more minutes," like, just to finish this thing. "Alright, let's go. Let's power through." It was like, I don't know. I wouldn't even call it determination might be a word, but just obsession. I don't know. Like I was upset. I'm an obsessive person. And so when I was pursuing football, like when I was training for the Olympics, I hung an Olympic flag in the top of my dad had an old like little gym, kind of like y'all got here.
mhm.
Just like old school hardcore, like
Yeah.
old equipment. I loved it. That's why I like this place.
Yeah.
And I would hang just like Olympic banners at the top. And so it's like showing up for work every day, like, to work out, whether I'm tired or hungry or blah, it doesn't matter, like, I would see that flag and everything underneath it didn't matter because it's like, I'm chasing those rings,
Mm,
and so this workout, this squat, this power clean, all the stuff that normally it's like, "Alright, I got squat day." It's like,
mm,
doesn't matter if I have squat day, I'm going to the Olympics, like, whatever takes me there is, like, it doesn't matter, like, I'm gonna power through it, and so you're just like you attack everything because it's just, like, in the way,
mhm.
and so, that's kinda like how it's like, well, I gotta, like, launch this startup or I gotta, learn
Yeah.
this video. So it's just like you kinda just stuff's in the way, you just power through it.
Yeah, I mean, uh, when you started your journey or just your life being an athlete and you're aiming to be a high performance athlete to go into the pros,
Mhm.
right? You're training your mind, you're training your body to be pretty aggressive with your training, and that is just to me, I think you're molding the brain patterns and just your emotional states to be motivated to continue to work hard despite injuries that you face. And so after, when you stepped away from sports, that's still going to be there. Like it's not gonna. Uh, Recently, I've been talking about Joe Dispenza and reading his book, Becoming Supernatural, and he talks about this in an intricate way of just how there's this, your thought patterns can influence feelings, and it can be just this kind of perpetual cycle, and then your feelings influence your thoughts, and but it's interesting to see how if you keep reinforcing these thoughts, these actions, these habits, it continues to mold more into your brain and into your emotions, and so I'm sure like getting out of sports, you still had that. Um, in a way, I mean, it seems like it was kind of beneficial for you. Like you were able to continue being motivated in other realms, whether it was your startup, whether it was audio and visual, creating content. And some people, if they had like an injury like that, I feel they kind of just drop out. I mean, just hearing, I've never had migraines, so I can't really embody it, right? But I mean, I've had injuries and I've had pretty uncomfortable moments in my life physically, but I can't even fucking imagine fucking migraines. And so to be able to withstand that and then move forward in other different like just different realms in your life is impressive. And I think that sports is maybe a tribute to being successful now and even in between.
Yeah, it's definitely the transferable skills, and I think that's why a lot of companies will recruit athletes, like there's specific like
Yeah,
there's like correction
yeah,
officers. I know a lot of guys that went in that field, obviously military, and then even things like enterprise rent a car, like certain companies have identified like athletes. So, like,
yeah,
okay, we need that mindset.
yeah,
That's what we need above all else. But yeah, dude, like injuries, like if you roll your ankle, you go from like walking one day to the next day, you're like, can't
yeah.
put weight on it. And you are like, holy crap, this is like, so when it's your brain, what's scary is like you can't show up for like loved ones or friends the same way.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
and you start like, it starts becoming like a self-loathing thing because you're just like, dude, like I don't even know how to express it. Where you're like, who am I
I
anymore?
mean, I kinda get it. It's like
Yeah,
every aspect of your life is through your brain, through your mind, through your perception, and how you handle your relationships with yourself, but also with other people, with your job, with your career, romantic, hobbies, whatever it may be, it's just completely deterred. So every aspect of your life is pretty, I mean, yeah, it's just, it's hard for you to carry on in an optimal manner and have kind of peace in general. So I can't even imagine, man. That's
yeah. Mental health, man. It's psychological and physiological. And that's something I've been diving into a lot
yeah.
lately to better understand all that. And that's kind of like I try to biohack creativity,
Mhm.
and I just think I mean, it's obviously all connected, but we just take things for granted. You know, there's like I've been trying to take an approach lately of understanding why we know things. So, uh, there's a guy named Leonard, Mlodov. I'm probably saying his name wrong, but he has a book called Subliminal, and it's like the subliminal psychology into marketing.
Mm.
And each chapter starts out really, um, kinda basic, and you're like, "Yeah, I already know that."
Mhm.
It'll be something like, "Oh, you go into uh, an Italian restaurant and they're playing Italian music," like, you're like, "Well, duh." But then he breaks down the psychology of, like, the studies that have been done in different marketplaces and different
Mm.
things, why we know that music helps that ambiance and whatever.
Mhm.
It's beyond, just, like, an assumed thing, and, you know, if you say, like, "Hey, you need to hit the gym, you need to work out more," and it's like, "Well, I know,"
Mhm.
but if I told you, "Hey, you have antidepressants in your muscles that release during resistance training," you might wanna go to the gym more. It's like, there's just, like there's psychology around if we know the reason why we're supposed to do something, that it'll convert at a higher rate. And, one of the examples that he used was if you're at, like, the library and there's a line for the copier and you say, "Hey, can I cut in front of you?" Like, "No, like, get in line." But if you say, "Hey, can I cut in front of you? I'm late for class."
Mm.
Like, I forget the exact number, but it's just, like, the conversion rate goes from, like, 0% to, like, 70%, you
Mhm.
know, like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just, like there's, like, just psychology, and you can use that in a lot of different instances. And so I've been trying to constantly, like, apply, uh more understanding to, like, why something is true to help me convert my discipline, you know?
Mm.
So, like, "Hey, man, you really need to not drink," or
Mhm.
or like, "Hey, if you're gonna have a beer, try not to have it after this time
Mhm.
because alcohol in your system is gonna keep you from getting REM sleep,
Right.
which is gonna lead to, like, you know,
Yeah.
all the other." So it's just, like, I try to, like, understand that, and, so I've been putting in the newsletter a lot, but, it's all connected, man. When you feel like, something like a physical injury and you see how it permeates throughout everything,
Mhm.
um, it definitely helps you, like, reset your life a little bit.
Yeah, and you had one I've stated this quote on the podcast, so you're gonna be episode number 15, so within this range of podcasts that I've done in this, like, short amount of time, I think I brought it up a couple times, but I believe you put it in, one of your more recent, articles quoting Naval, and it
Mhm. Yeah.
goes it's like Confucius. It's,
Yeah.
there's 2 quotes. One was, "Man has 2 lives, and when he realizes he only has 1," or
The
something like
second begins
the
when he
second begins
realizes
when
it.
he only realizes he has 1, and then the other quote was, "A healthy man has thousands of desires, but an unhealthy man only has 1, and it's to be healthy again." And so, uh, yeah, I mean, having health as your baseline, as I think you also noted, is that's something that I, practice in my life as well now. Ever since I've moved to Austin, I've been very grateful to find this gym and the ice baths and the sauna and all that, and it's made it really easy because of the community too, and I've gotten to a point where so many bad habits that I had in my lifestyle are just like, "I can't believe I did that." But just a few months ago, it was, like, hard for me to stop that, you know?
Yeah.
It was hard for me to stop it because I enjoyed it, and maybe it was because it brought me a sense of security internally, whether it was drinking for social events or whatever. And so now it's like I've just gotten to a consistent basis, like, of being healthy and just being, yeah, just practicing that, and I think that's cool how you're granulizing and trying to figure out these truths through, yeah, like your example of drinking. Like Peter Attia talks about it all the time.
Yeah.
He recently, I think, spoke to Tim Ferriss. I actually just got his book for an early birthday present. But he talks about like the most drinks you'll ever have in a week is two, and then he breaks it down. It's like your heart rate will continue to go up, and yeah, your REM cycle and sleep is like the foundation of being healthy too. So like alcohol, it definitely affects after a certain time of the day. Um, yeah, it affects your sleep, and that can then kind of cycle into different realms of your physiological health. So, how did you break out of this migraine and this vision impairment? You
So
said biohacking.
yeah, this was I went into just get like a random physical,
Okay.
and I did not understand anything about blood pressure. Like I just knew, oh yeah, mine's a pretty high number. What's a high number? And forever, doctors or like when I get a physical for football or whatever, trainers, I would always get this question: has anyone ever told you you have high blood pressure? And I'm like, no one's told me that, but about 7 people have asked me that question. So do I or do I like what the hell is it? Like, do I have high blood pressure? Why are you
Yeah.
asking? Someone tell me. And so I just kind of wrote it off. Like it's a thing. Like I feel great, right? Well, I would take my blood pressure from time to time, and so I knew the numbers, and I didn't know if they're high or low. I just knew what they were.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and got a physical, and now I'm like 30, who knows, 34, 30, mid early 30s at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Hey, your blood pressure's too high." And he took it, just the one time. And he's like, I'm gonna put you on blood pressure medication." And at this time, now I'm thinking like, okay, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and be like, all right, doc. And like for out of respect for my girlfriend too, like
Mm-hmm.
I want to be healthy for the people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I went on blood pressure medication, went back a month later, no change. Like he goes, I'm gonna put you on a second one. And I'm like, okay, so I'm like early 30s, gonna go on 2 blood pressure medications.
At the same time, or they just switched?
No, at the same time, like
Wow.
you're just gonna double me up. And I was like, "Hey, are you like, is this necessary? Like, can't I just do something else?" And he's like, "Well, normally we go to lifestyle stuff, but you already exercise and you eat pretty healthy. Like now, like the next step is medication." And I was like, I mean, that's a relative. Like, I already eat pretty healthy compared to what an American, like. So I was like, man, the bar's kind of low as far as that goes. Like, I'm used to like football and going for the Olympics. Like, dude, I can turn it up. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can do better. And so I went home and said, "F it, I'm not getting this medication." I stopped taking the other one, and I bought a blood pressure cuff, and I just wanted to biohack it from there. So I took my blood pressure before and after every single activity throughout the day. It's like wake up, take it. Go to the coffee shop, come back, take it. Meeting, take it. Like before and
Mm.
after. So I knew like what triggered a spike, and I took thousands of readings over several. I still take it every day, like several
Wow.
times. I keep it. I have one in my car on the
Mm-hmm.
road, so I know like how road trips, the type of sleeping environments, temperatures,
Mm-hmm.
altitude and elevation, because those are big factors, especially where like I end up. And I took it throughout the day, and I found that I'd go to the coffee shop, and I would have like 4 cups of coffee, crush client work. I would at this time I'm waking up at like 5:36, like pretty early
Mm-hmm.
for me. Like at the time, I had a really good routine, a lot of good like consistency. Coffee shop, crush work for like 2-3 hours, just like knock out all the stuff I needed to. Come back, sky high. So I'd wake up and the numbers could be like 135 over 86. Come back, which is relatively high-ish, but normal. Come back and it would be like 160 over 98, which is a massive spike.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, holy shit, like, okay, was it the work or the coffee? Well, I'll just do like, I'll switch to decaf after the first cup. No change.
Mm.
Then I was like, all right, let's just try no caffeine. And it would be up a little bit. So instead of going up to 160, it might be like 148. I'm like, okay, so it's higher. And so then I would try things. And I was like, all right, well, what if I wake up and work out instead? Because I noticed like I would work out later and I'd get a little drop. So let's like set a healthier baseline. So if I go into work, instead of starting out like just kind of like ramping up throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
what if I like kind of like lower it and then like reset. So
Mhm.
I rescheduled my entire day around these spikes. So instead of like intermittent fasting, waking up, going in, crushing work, caffeine, going into a stand-up call where my team's gonna tell me a bunch of fires and
Mhm.
stress me out, and I'm hangry because I haven't eaten. I was tracking everything from intermittent fasting, alcohol intake, sleep quality in hours, caffeine, and then all the measurements of the
Mm.
readings, and, like, kind of those are the points that I followed, and so I would, like, say how many hours I fasted each day and, like, whatever, and I came to the conclusion that, like, fasting's not for me. I know there's the benefits, but like, if it's, like, good for you at the expense of you being an asshole and stressing you out, then it's like, what kinda health benefit like, what's the pro con here of, like, the ultimate goal, you
Mhm.
know? Like, stress is gonna kill you before anything else.
Yeah.
And so, basically, man, I started with a workout, then I would go eat, I would do some studying, like, work on myself of, like, let's learn some
Mhm.
Spanish or, like, read a book,
Mm.
and then go into that meeting, like, just feeling like, "Okay, I have put like, worked on me first, taken the early morning hours, which are the best hours, and I've given them just to me instead of someone else, like a client. Give them to me, and then let's go into the day ready to be like, okay, here's the fire, here's the challenges. Instead of here are the fires I got to put out. Okay, here are the challenges
Mhm.
because that's a different mindset, you know. Like, okay,
Mhm.
I can be challenged, but I don't want to have like reactive fires, you know.
Mhm.
And I was able to lower it um, to like a pretty normal level, and my doctor was like, "You're good." And then fast forward, man, like 6 to 8 months after this, I was starting to get these headaches when I was working. And it was not because I was getting headaches because I like created something negative. My prescription on my glasses was causing the headaches because I didn't need them anymore. And so like I'm working and I'm like, "Oh my god, my head is killing me." And I took the glasses off and I was like, "Oh my god, I feel so much better." And I was like, "I can read the screen just fine."
Yeah.
And then I just stopped wearing glasses and I haven't worn them in 4 or 5 years.
Whoa. So blood pressure?
Yeah, so, like, the neurologists I've talked to are like, "Yeah, it's very possible that just that pressure in the veins and capillaries and all the stuff
Wow.
might have been because it was a traumatic brain injury that caused it, and, you know, and your vision doesn't necessarily get better as you age,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And, so I just yeah, and I feel it every once in a while if I'm, like, pushing it too hard 'cause, dude,
Mhm.
I still love beer and wine, so, like,
Mhm.
I'm not, like, not drinking, but I'm, like, very mindful of it, and
Mhm.
I'm constantly working on it. Uh, if I don't sleep right or whatever, I can notice like maybe I'm a little bit less sharp and you know,
Mhm.
I can notice now
Mhm.
like, okay, my brain health,
Mhm.
I can see like based on sleep and stress and stuff, how my vision is kind of like fluctuates a little bit. Not like, you know, not to where I need to put glasses back on. Yeah, dude, I don't wear glasses anymore and I did for 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it seems like our health industry here in America is just there's so much we don't know, and there's certain practices that we implement that just are short-term fixes.
Yeah.
And wow, that's so crazy. Just a simple fix in your blood pressure helped with your vision and prevented migraines. Typically, oh, this is for like everything. And the majority, I've heard Joe Rogan say this all the time. Like the majority of commercials in America is for medication, for allergies, or for whatever, for side effects of medication. And so, yeah, it's like, oh, you have bad pressure. Here's a pill. If you have bad vision, I mean, yeah, glasses will definitely help. But there's maybe other options besides the glasses, and,
Maybe, yeah.
and it's very interesting to see this trend in biohacking and different ways of operating as a human being to prevent health ailments. And I was just saying, like Peter Attia released a book. I got it for like an early birthday
I
present.
heard about it. I'm excited to read it.
Yeah, so same. I'm really excited to see what he has to say, and it seems like the also with Andrew Huberman, he talks about just to kind of comment on your coffee habit. Like I used to drink coffee right when I would wake up, and I could just feel like this jump starting within my body that was just it just didn't feel good. And so now it's like I wake up super early, meditate, do some of the stuff. exercise, drink a lot of water. So I'll wait like 2 to 3 hours to have coffee, and man, I feel great. Like, I just feel much like you're already warmed up. Your body's already kind of, circulating, within your blood, your circular system. And yeah, just the whole coffee as soon as you wake up, just for me was just a not, just didn't feel good. So um, that's really cool that you were able to be patient and be able to try to test things in order to fix this or improve.
Yeah, everyone's different too. So
Yeah.
like not everyone's affected by caffeine like I am. It's definitely people that are more prone to like electrical systems in your
Mhm.
body, I
Mhm.
think. But that's why I tell people to experiment, just track stuff. See, so even last year and the year prior, I was getting pretty regular headaches that I don't know if I'd call them migraines, but they're pretty close. Where there was two things I tried to narrow it down to. One was allergies, like cedar fever. Like here in
Mhm.
Austin, it's awful.
Oh, yeah.
And then the weather changes, like the type of weather systems that move in here in Central Texas, where it's
Mhm.
just like there's a storm coming. I could tell you it was going to rain in the next 48 hours or so based
Mm.
on how my head felt. I was
Yeah.
like, something's coming but it was like I changed I got irritable. I was very short. Um, and sometimes I felt like it was a weather headache. Sometimes I thought it was an allergy headache. And I removed a lot of stressors in my life, and my life's completely changed the last few years. And this year I've noticed like I don't get those headaches. Now my
Mm.
diet's changed. I've removed a lot of stress. And so there's just like I really like I forget the term. But basically, yeah, drives me nuts that I can't remember these words, but it's like just make marginal changes.
Mhm.
Where it's like, okay, if you drink, let's say, or like you drink coffee every single day. If
Mhm.
you stop putting cream and sugar in your coffee every single day, that's a small change,
Mhm.
but adds up.
Mhm.
And there's a word for it, and I'm just blanking out. But like
Elimination diet?
no, it's not elimination.
Subtraction?
It's well, they looked at like I don't know if it was the Russian Federation or it was an Olympic Federation that took this approach to their athletes on marginal improvements
Mm.
just across the board. Instead of saying like, all right, from now on, no one's drinking Gatorade, we're drinking water. It's like, no,
Mhm.
let's just make little improvements across like 10 to 15 different areas.
Mm.
And then that quantified self, it's like a quantified self approach.
Huh.
And
Oh,
so
cool.
you look for the things that are repeatable that you can marginally improve. And so like one example to talk about alcohol, and me and my friend, we had a competition we did. We were trying to hold each other accountable. And this is like 10 years ago. So now, like, the information we know about alcohol is now more damning. But
Mhm.
like back then, it's just like, oh, it's good for you to have like two a day, Like
Yeah,
that was literally the information.
glass of wine, yeah.
So we're told it's good for you. Now it's pretty damning to the opposite. And we had a thing called rollover beers. And like we were drinking too much. We are like in the entrepreneurial space. And we said, all right, dude, you get a 2 beer a day budget. And any beers you don't take during the week, they roll over to the weekend. So it was like encouraging you not to drink it because like I want like instead of 2 beers on Saturday, I'd love to have 4. But the only way you could redeem those beers is if you got at least 5 workouts in that week. And a workout had to be a minimum 30 minutes of like at least like
Mm.
a run. So we had like an offset, And so then we started like doing the quantified self where it's like, okay, what's a beer? Well, a beer is actually a light beer. So that like a Miller Lite.
Or a 13% IPA.
Yeah, so that would be like your 2 beers, like you get
That's like
1.
4 beers
So yeah,
or maybe 3, I
we
don't know.
we didn't drink like those
Yeah.
strong, but like
Yeah, yeah.
we did it by like a 4.2% like ABV.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like whatever. And then it was like, "Oh wait, they have Miller 64s. Those are like 2.4% or 2 point whatever percent." So that really gets you like 3 or 4. It's like we started doing it, but then I got in this habit of drinking these ultralight beers.
Mm.
So like I might drink like 2 Miller 64s. And that's like drinking 1 Miller Lite,
Mhm.
and I don't like Miller, but I'm just the
Mhm.
example.
Yeah.
Um, so all of a sudden, it's like if I drink a Coors Light, that's like drinking a craft beer in my eyes. And so you're like kind of scaling back. And like for me, if I like drinking beer, I've just cut back a lot of alcohol and a lot of calories throughout the
Mhm.
month. Same thing with coffee, drinking it black or drinking the decaf. And so just taking that quantified self approach, being really routine, and like instead of like two handfuls of this, just eat one handful. You know,
Mhm.
just literally
Yeah.
like those marginal improvements. Um, but that's been a big help for me too. And like now, I think just the way I eat, my diet, like I don't get cravings. I don't get irritable when I'm hungry,
Mhm.
and I don't get these headaches. And I think
Yeah.
it's stress and diet.
Yeah. Same here, man. It's taken a bit for me, but experimenting with yourself,
Yeah.
with the quantified self and, like, trying workouts, different times of the day, coffee a little bit later or no coffee one day and then coffee the next day.
Have you done
Um,
like an elimination diet or anything like that?
Kinda, yeah. So, I haven't had a drop of alcohol since, January, I think, 21st,
Oh wow.
and that's the longest I've ever had a break. I started drinking when I was, like, 13, 14 years old.
Oh,
So and it was just, like, the fun thing to do, you know? And so leading up from, like, 14 years old, I'm 29 now, um, you know, I just drank, like, all the time. Just it was every single year pretty much leading into high school and college, and, yeah, so I never did like an elimination diet for what I consumed until like now, and I feel like the best I've ever felt. And it could be yeah a combination of the frequency of alcohol that I have, and then like drinking so only one cup of coffee. If I drink more than one, then I feel like a little on edge. And then I'll like eliminate it one day. I eat only whole foods, so like here in Austin, I get, a quarter of a cow from a local rancher that I know.
oh wow.
So I just get, like I don't eat out ever, so I'm not having any like, seed oils or artificial flavors. Like, I've really eliminated all of the bullshit in food. I and that might be, like, kinda crazy for some people to try to practice, like, not ever eating out, but, I don't know, I just find pleasures in other things. Like, I don't have like, I like eating out. I've had so many great times with my family and friends eating out, having drinks. Um, but now that I have the knowledge that I have, I just realize, like, our food system is just a little flawed.
It's
And
depressing. Like
yeah,
when you start learning about seed oils and all that
it's
stuff, it
bad.
kind of
Yeah.
ruins everything for you.
Well, so what's cool to kinda riff off of that with a like, a positive, thing that's happening, so there's a food business called Ziki here in Austin, and they have multiple food trucks, and Austin has this whole food truck vibe here, which I thought was cool. But anyways, like, their marketing is, "We don't have seed oils."
Mhm.
And they have this huge, like, billboard at, downtown Austin, like, right in front of one of their food trucks saying, man, I took a picture of it, but it's like it looks like it's a just like a screenshot of a tweet, and it's their profile, and it said, like, "The future is, seed oilless,"
Oh, I think I saw that.
something like that, or just focusing on how seed oils should be completely eliminated, which, it's crazy to see, like to see the pictures of America, this kind of color graph that shows, obesity rates, and this is where, in the 1970s, a lot of drastic changes happened, and I'm in the I do this for, like, a passion project, but I also work in the Bitcoin space, and so the changing of money, our money system, had drastic changes over a lot of different things, and one was, different commodities, different, changes in our diet. 1970s, we instead of using beef tallow for French fries, for cooking meat, we just went with seed oils, canola oil, because it was much cheaper to make.
Yeah.
It was very cost efficient for businesses, and then as different corporations became more successful, they continued to use it because it was so cost efficient. Whereas, like, I mean, beef tallow, you have to rate it. Livestock is much more uh, cost intensive. I mean, just raising the livestock and whatnot, and so seed oils, as you see, like in America, it's like obesity rates just like drastically change around that time when we kind of made that conversion in the cooking oils that we use. And so, anyways, kind of going on a tangent there, but it's really cool to, yeah, for me, exercise is a foundation, good sleep, plenty of water, electrolytes, healthy relationships. So it's been so easy. Like this like Squatch. I mean, I'm a broken record. I say it almost on every episode, but it's just been so beneficial for finding all of these resources, relationships, good food, sources of food, um, exercise, optimal, like functional exercising, so you're not injuring yourself. Um, and yeah, just different social events and whatnot. And so, yeah, I feel like the best I've ever felt in like the sauna and the ice is just it's really helpful too. With like if I have I don't know, if I just like I haven't really binge ate in a while or gone off gone off the rails. But if I do, and I feel like crap, I'll just hop in the sauna for like a half hour.
Yeah.
And it's like you come out and you're like, right, you sweat out those toxins.
Love sauna, man. It's
Yeah,
been a big help.
seems to be according to Peter Attia, uh, if you do it 2 to 3 times a week for 10 to 15 minutes, it's like it eradicates like 20 to 30% of all cause mortality rates. And if you do it 4 to 5 times a week at the same amount of time, it's like 50 to 60%. It's crazy how
Yeah.
the health benefits of sauna.
Yeah, and I one of the numbers I heard on that was like the reduction of like cardiovascular
Yeah.
catastrophe and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I'm sensitive to that because of traumatic brain injury and high blood
Mm.
pressure. I'm like I'm trying to like avoid stroke and heart attack
Yeah.
as long as, I mean, ideally that's not a threat for a long time, but like, today it's kind of sketch on
Yeah.
healthy athletes kind of dropping. And so
Yeah.
I'm constantly worried about that stuff. And sauna's like I'm probably in it like I go about 20 minutes, like 5 times a week probably. Like I
Oh,
try to
really?
hit it like almost, yeah.
And you're still able to do that with like traveling and what you're doing?
If there's an LA Fitness, yeah.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah,
Nice.
I try. It depends. Like certain travel, like I have a gym in Montana that has a sauna,
Oh, cool.
and so I'm there like every day.
Nice.
And especially if I'm living out of my car, I'm at the gym every single day because
Mm.
that's just the shower, kind of reset. I'll start my day. I'll just like go straight to the gym.
Yeah, when I envisioned your life looking at your Instagram, I was always thinking like this guy is he's just doing push-ups in the woods or something like
Sometimes
that.
I have dumbbells. Just depends on the weather. Once it
Yeah.
gets cold, I'm just like I need to get the hell into a sauna. Like,
Yeah.
but no, there's days. We got off on like nutrition and like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, that's all right.
the there's a couple spots like I can think of like two campsites that I spend a lot of time at. The desert too, like the desert's pretty easy to like set up
Mm.
camp for like a week and just
Yeah.
not move. And like my car, I have it set up. So I have a Toyota Sequoia, and I have a lot of power and solar and water, so I can post up for like at least a week,
Mm.
and be good.
Yeah.
And like until I run out of water and food, I don't need to like pack up and go anywhere. And so I got Starlink satellite, and so I'll just
Oh,
work.
wow.
Got dumbbells,
Anywhere
anywhere.
with the Starlinks.
Yeah. Oh, dude, this is gonna sound stupid to a lot of people because they're like, "Dude, bro, you gotta be present." I'm like, "Yo, man, I live in these places." So it's like, but I was in Glacier National Park, like at the top, and going to the
Nice.
Sun Road, and my alma mater, UTEP, had their opening game against OU, and I was like, I just want to watch like at least a quarter, just because football's back and like my team's on
Yeah.
ABC TV, and
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
see us get the crap beat out of us in person, or like I want to see it for myself.
Yeah, yeah.
So I popped up Starlink and streamed the game from like dead center of Glacier, where no one's got cell
Wow.
service.
Man,
And then
okay.
got back on the trail, took some
That's
pictures.
so cool. So I actually just thought of it's funny that you mentioned that because I was thinking about that at some point today or last night about just the ability because oh yeah, I was talking to my friend Michelle because I really like doing this like in-person studio
Yeah.
podcast. The company I work for is here in Austin as well, and they do like us to be present in person, but we do have the flexibility of working remote. But I do have this desire to continue all this, but also travel
Yeah.
and have incorporating something like what you're doing in regards to the hierarchy of needs that you have, water, food, and shelter, and then Starlink. Imagine doing like a podcast and like I'm in Zion National Park and
Yeah.
podcasting with someone and I mean, I don't know how the connection would be, but it's fascinating to me how like I think like human tribes of just like human ways of being is drastically gonna change with this technology. Like, why not? Like, almost every job, or I think the majority of jobs, will be online, and to be able to travel wherever you want, especially in nature, like deep in nature, and still have that internet connectivity through Starlink satellite internet connection. It's fucking mind blowing what's possible for humans to be able to be creative and also like I always think of like Star Wars and what's that planet with all the Ewoks.
Oh yeah,
You've got these like you're in like the like a California redwoods or
yeah.
whatever, and you just got these like super cool infrastructure and architecture in the trees, and you just got all this internet connectivity. Like I'm sure that could happen like maybe hundreds of years from now, because like you want
Who
who
knows?
fucking knows
I
though.
know. I mean, you have a lot of people working on like the tiny home communities, and I think there's a lot of like trending towards that, just through the pandemic and people trying to get into it. And like all of a sudden, like I think when you think about population density and like the negatives of that, uh, like everyone's like, there's too many people in these places, and then I
Yeah,
go on the road and I'm like, there's nobody for 100 miles in any direct. Like we have
yeah.
a lot of space, but yeah, you want to be by the opportunities and the infrastructure and then the resources and
And I think that's like just a continuation of the industrial age. Cities just having all of the resources of jobs and ways of living and sustaining your living.
yeah,
But now it's like, you don't necessarily have to do that. And when COVID started, a lot of people just said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go rural." And I have the ability because I work online. I think I heard someone tell me like Amazon employees just without even asking their Amazon leaders, they just moved to random like places. And
mm,
then when it came time to be like, "All right, you got to come back to this headquarters center," and they were like, "Nope, we're gonna stay here." And some of them might have been fired, or some of them were like, "You know what? It's fine. We actually can still stay pretty connected through this remote access."
yeah.
There is benefits for in-person connection, but yeah, this disbursement of rural industrialization is interesting.
Yeah, I think like where I'm at now too, like I think about like why would I be here? And you know, like I'm single right now and I don't have a family or anything like that. And so that's
Same,
part of the reason I'm able to do all this stuff.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh I've had a girlfriend where we both love this adventure life and doing it with a partner is definitely better. And I
Mhm.
prefer that and I want that. Um But that's the one thing where I think about like, okay, I'm not gonna meet anyone in the woods. I mean, not never. I'm definitely like I can't say never, but
It's more difficult.
it's more difficult.
Yeah.
And if you meet someone, you're guaranteed to have the same interests because
Yeah.
like, well, you're out in the woods too. But then it's like not necessarily the same person, like,
Yeah.
and so like to find someone, it's almost like that's about like for me, that's why I'm leaving Austin kind of like permanently, if you will,
Mm.
but it's never permanent. Like Austin's still home. But that's the one thing where it's like, you feel like it's better to meet someone in the city and then y'all mutually go out and
Mhm.
explore versus like
Mm.
roll the
Yeah.
dice. That's the one thing with the density.
Yeah. Well, one, I would love to. I mean, obviously, you're welcome back here, and you could crush a squatch session, jump on the podcast anytime in the future, just to talk about your journey and stories. Because I mean, we still could go. We've got plenty of time to get into more. So it's cool that you're making this step, though. You're like kind of uh getting rid of your headquarters here in Austin in a way.
Yeah, putting stuff in storage. Just because yeah, I'm leaning more into the content.
Yeah.
6 months ago, my life was completely different.
Well, yeah, so I was gonna say we were diving into your medical issues and that kind of
Yeah.
the
Let's just
failures.
talk about all the
Well,
medical info.
this is what I love about the podcast. Is you're able to kind of just let consciousness
Yeah.
flow, and I like that aspect of just the structure that I've been doing it this way. I really like it a lot, and but I would love to hear. We can continue with like more challenges and failures. But I think it's good to talk about like how you've incrementally changed or things have changed for you in regards to content creation and the tools you use for content creation.
Yeah. I think I'll go. I'll tell this story just because it's like it'll kind of get me into the framework. And
Sure.
so pre-COVID, um, I had a business with a business partner, and we were an agency of record for a lot of brands where we were creating all their content, their brand, doing all their development. And we had a tech platform we were building. We started as a tech company. We're going to raise money for that. But then the agency started like raising the money for it. I was like, let's just run the agency and fund it. And so in 18 months, we built a company $2.5 million run rate and like had a trailing like $1 million, but like we're just growing crazy. And then COVID hit. Actually, before COVID hit, my partner's son was diagnosed with leukemia.
Mm.
And so for a few months, we took a pretty heavy hit. You know, he was kind of out for I would say like 90 days.
Yeah.
He was basically like
Yeah.
working with his family. So I had to run his job and mine, like keeping client because he did the sales and development and I did all the operations, creative. So I had to like do 2 jobs for a while. And then out, so that burned me out. He came back and it's like, all right, we're back. Getting a new office because we're growing. COVID. And so it was like, God, like, and so we lost 70% of our business in the first 3 weeks. And then we also had another like 150K of just invoices that work already done, not paid.
Mm.
And so we got out of our office, thank God. Like we were about to sign this new 3-year lease. And so you go from having like all this cash flow and you're like trying to scale and you have employees to all of a sudden it's like, all right, we have 6 months of runway. Oh, wait a minute. Like 3 of those months didn't get paid. Well, and then, hey, maybe if we don't pay ourselves, we can keep this person on. And so then because you keep thinking like this pandemic thing can't be like, you just don't know what's going to happen yet.
Mhm.
And so you're like holding on for dear life. Basically, like it was just going to zero. Cause he was like dealing with his son and like, where are your priorities? So I sold everything I owned, which wasn't much. Like we built this company, but we hadn't like been stockpiling. We hadn't been paying
Mhm.
ourselves hardly anything. All I had was like a car and a couch, I sold those, bought this SUV and moved into it. I just said, I'm gone. I see the writing's on the wall. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Like, um, and I was so burned out, man. I mean, when you kill yourself, like, I mean, 2 hours of sleep a night type of
Oh,
thing where it's
wow.
like getting ready because we were at the Super Bowl, we were doing stuff. So I'm like
Mm.
pulling all nighters, making sure stuff like is delivered on time, like killing myself just to have it taken away. And so you're just kind of like get to a point where you're just like, there's no freaking point in anything. Like I have no control over anything. And so I just drove north. I just got in my car and just left. And I was like, I'll be back when I'm back. Like once it's too cold. And it ended
Well,
up being a 4-month trip.
this was like, so
2020,
20. Okay.
2020, it's a couple years ago. This is the beginning of the adventure. Uh, and I just said I'm gone. Um, and I'm a video guy. Like that was like our main service was like my main thing. And I didn't want to film shit. I didn't want to touch a camera. I was like, I'm going to start taking photography again because I was like, I need to do something. I need to learn a skill. And like photography was kind of my background, but I never
Mhm.
did it like professionally. Like you would never hire. I did, sure when I got started, people were like, oh, will you do our shoot? And I'm like, I just never went that route. I don't want to be a wedding photographer. I don't want to be a product photographer. So video and marketing really ended up being my thing and branding. But I was like, I really want to like learn photography, like actually learn it and like what focal lengths and shutter speeds and how to do Adobe Lightroom and editing. And so I started taking pictures and just kind of learning that skill. And like I'm so burned out. Like I don't want to I literally you would think like I'd be vlogging and doing all this stuff like, hey y'all. No, I'm just disappear. I want to take
Mm.
photos. And I just posted them to Instagram just for fun. And I have like 1,200 followers, like whatever. It's just to my friends and whatever. And they were not that great. Um, so I hit the road though, and we had one employee left. And the first like big like destination I got to, like I went through like uh Horseshoe Bend in like southern Utah. Um, but then I got to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. That was like the first place. Like I really wanted to go to the wilderness.
Mm.
Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is kind of like where I wanted to check out. That's where I was headed. So that's like an hour or two north or from the Canadian border, northern Idaho. And I ended up in Jackson Hole, but I got there in the middle of the night. And I'm new. I don't know anything about camping. I don't know etiquette. I have not been to
Mhm.
a campsite yet. I like literally slept in a hotel parking lot one night, slept on the side of a road one night in Sedona. Like I'm just starting this
Mm.
journey. I've only slept in my car 2 or 3 nights. Um, and get now, I get to this like place I've heard of, Jackson Hole. I've heard of it. It's
Mhm.
right by Yellowstone and
Mhm.
it's magical. And I'm just Googling campsites. Again, don't know the etiquette. I don't know if you're supposed to reserve them. I don't know if you can anything. So I drive up into this canyon and I see cars and it's pitch black and I don't know where to go. So I just keep driving back to where I finally don't see any cars. And when I say see cars, you see one every like 50 yards, or
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
And again, don't know the etiquette. So I just go until I'm like, I don't want to step on anyone's toes. And I just fall asleep. Now, the next day I wake up and I only have one meeting on my calendar. And prior to this, running this company, my calendar ran my life, just was like, all right, see y'all in 10 hours, like after all this stuff. Um, I had one meeting on my calendar, and it was to lay off our last employee. So, like, I'd already left, but we had one employee left, and it was like, I'm doing this from the mountains. I'm not doing this from my little apartment in Austin, you know? I'm doing it
Mm.
from the one employee left, and woke up, had the meeting, let her go, which she kinda knew it was coming. We were all in it together, you know? I was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we did what we could."
Yeah.
And I just sit here in complete silence in this wilderness, and I'm just like, "Where do I go from here?" Like, where am I? Like, with my partner, with my future, with my company, kind of on the relationship on the fritz, where am I? And, like, and where am I? Like, where the fuck am I? Like, I drove here in the middle of the night, like, where am I? And it was just, like, this weird, like, beginning of a new chapter of, like, everything I didn't this is the first time I'd seen Jackson Hole because I drove in pitch black in the middle of the night to get there, and it's the first time I have nothing on my calendar in years,
Mhm.
and it's like, I'm literally just on an adventure now, and that was, like, this moment of just, like, what do I it was just bizarre, and so,
So it can be overwhelming.
freedom is overwhelming, choices are overwhelming, options are overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is like, how long can I sustain this
Yeah,
if I'm not getting revenue?
right. Oh, dude. Yeah. I was digging a hole for sure. We had a few little, retainer things that were still coming
Yeah.
in, but, like, you're still digging a hole. Um, but, like, yeah, from then on, I started, like, taking pictures, trying to learn to edit, hanging out in coffee shops, seeing, like, trying to understand photography. I didn't know anything about it. I was just like, "How does this guy do these colors?" I started bookmarking different colors or, photos and
Mhm.
was like, "Okay, I don't know what my look is." It's one of the reasons I didn't do it. I was like, "Well, this guy has this cool faded look. This guy's black and white. This person's teal and orange. This person's very warm." And I like them all, so I don't know who am I? And so I just started taking pictures and, like, emulating people or, like, bookmarking things, and you start studying the colors, like, "Okay, why do I like this color? Well, what do the blues look like? Oh, they're really desaturated. That's interesting. Like, I thought I liked blues, like, hit saturation. Oh, wait, you can isolate colors? What are curves? What are like, I didn't know
Mm.
any of this stuff."
Yeah.
And so that's just where it kinda started, and yeah, I just, like, slept in my car and got a hotel here and there for 4 months, and then, came back to Texas thinking, like, things would be back to normal, like, "Okay, dude, what's the next chapter?" And I'm a dude in my mid-30s at my parents' guest room,
Mm.
just depressed because I just ended this, like, wilderness adventure, came back to a lot of disappointment. It's winter, and that was when we had the ice storm.
Mm.
So, like, it was just, like, a lot of shit. Um, and so I slowly started, like, trying to rebuild my mind set to get back to work. 'Cause I worked on the road. I didn't do nothing, but it was, like, just, like, little piddly stuff to, like, help pay gas, you know? But I got home and, there were some things that wwere done on behalf of the company that I ended up having to pay for myself. So I'm digging a deeper hole.
Mm.
So I had to start rebuilding my career, and who I was going to be. Cause there was a point where, like I moved back to Austin. Um, I had like $1,000 in my account and I used it to like rent a guy's, he had a little garage that he turned into a little tiny home. So it's like shitty little tiny home for like $600 a month in South Congress, and I rented that from him for, like, month to month, as long as I could pay for it, and there was months where, like, I got, like, 10 days until I owe him $600, but I don't have enough money to buy eggs or coffee, and so I'm, like, trying to figure out, like, okay, back when I was an early entrepreneur, freelancer, how did I hustle? And so I'm, like, picking up little photo gigs or, like, real estate gigs, to, like, take pictures of a ranch or, like, hey, who needs a website thing, and just putting together like $300 here, 500, and this is like, we used to have $25,000 retainers, and I'm trying to find like a couple $100 here and there. So it's like a mindset shift on like your perception of money. Um,
Mm.
Especially when I used to have like, when you're running a tech company and agency, you might have $2,000-3,000 a month on just apps and shit like
Mhm.
Zapiers and hosting and all the things that just go out the door. And here I'm trying to like literally live off of like less than $1,000 a month for me and everything I'm doing. Um, and so I was able to like sustain like without having to like pull out any stops because credit cards are maxed out from like company expenses and like people that didn't get paid that I personally paid on my credit card so that like the reputation was intact and the relationships were intact because
Mm.
there were some bridges burned, this is, another stories, but like, um, finally, like, kind of regrew a little bit of business and went to one of my old clients who, they have a cattle feed company, and I've done some videos for them. And I was like, hey, we did this video 4 or 5 years ago where it was, this old cowboy. And this is like, I'm getting into like TikTok and stuff right now. Like, I'm kind of working towards like how I got into short form content.
Mhm.
And we did this video. This guy, he was 95 years old. He was their oldest cowboy. We just interviewed him on a whim.
What was his name?
Norman.
Norman, yeah.
You saw him?
Yeah.
Norman Granwelge. Yeah.
He looked familiar. I don't know why. I thought I saw him, like, his face. I've seen it in your Instagram, but I thought I saw him somewhere else.
Maybe. So he's gone viral several times.
Okay. Alright.
We did a video with him back in like 2016, 17, something like that. He passed away while I was editing that video. And so it was like this in memory of, it was the closing slate, and people were like,
Mm.
wait a minute, he died? Because it was like we interviewed him and then he passed away.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh my God, those stories are gone. And we got them. Like, we got what we got. But it's just
Mhm.
like, holy shit. Like, but it's like, no, these stories that all these elders have are just dying every day.
Mm.
And so it kind of unlocked this like new just desire. I was like, I just want to interview the oldest
Yeah.
people I can find.
Wow.
Just like go get stories, especially with our like warped perception of the world right now.
Mhm.
Of like, no, what was it like back then? And so I went to them. I said, hey, we need to like do this at scale with short form content like TikTok.
Mm.
And Reels wasn't really a thing at the moment. I mean, I think Instagram was starting to creep on TikTok, but everyone looked at me like, you're an idiot. Like, why would we be on TikTok, you know? And I was like, I'm just telling you, like, the world needs this. This platform needs this to change a pace what's on there. And so started interviewing these elders, took Norman's clips, some other clips from some new interviews we did, and started putting them on TikTok. And that account grew to 100,000 like in a month, like
Wow.
real quick. Like, I just remember like tearing up the night Norman went viral, like where it's just like I'm watching, just like every time I refresh it, it's like 500 new comments. Like,
Wow.
it was like 1 million views, like
Yeah.
like a day or two, you know.
Wow.
And just did that, and we've had multiple people. Like, if I looked, I don't know how many views they've gotten in the last week, but it's well over 1 million. You know,
Mm.
like just their collective accounts get like, we'll post like this Lily Ray, who we just interviewed. She's gotten millions of views. Like, it's just, but it's cool to see these like elders telling these simple stories.
Mhm.
And so that just really like unlocked like this desire to tell different stories in the short form, in the cinematic style, like documentary style.
Mm.
And started playing with my stuff, just with no urge to create an audience. It was more like this creative expression. This is where like that transition
Yeah.
of just being the artist, just feeling like I just want to write, or like if you're a musician, you just need to write, or you're an
Mhm.
artist, you just need to paint. Like, I am obsessed with creating like these scenes or like I call them like music videos,
Mhm.
because I start with music for my personal stuff where I'll just be like, hear a song and I'm like, dude, that song's amazing. I want to like make a scene to go with it.
Mm.
And I created stuff for like a year for me, just for fun. I was really focused on their account, some clients' accounts, because I was like, I'm going to build these, and these are like still an art form. And then all of a sudden, like, I started finding like a lane for myself of like, oh, I really like creating this. And it was like, I'm just doing it for me. Literally, like, I like doing it.
Mhm.
But then all of a sudden, they started, one of them really went viral. And that kind of unlocked this new, like, oh shit, someone else likes this, not just me.
Mhm.
Because, I would go live on TikTok from a river, and that's kind of like where my audience really was coming from. So it
Mm.
was like just for numbers and vanity metrics, but so people have like an idea. It's like I went from like 0 followers to like 50K like over the course of a year, and it was like, yeah, I go live and I'd have a big audience. I'd have anywhere from 15 to 25,000 people on my lives, like on a TikTok. And so I might get 1,000 new followers just by going live and cooking
Mm.
breakfast or making
Yeah.
coffee. And I drink decaf, but I love coffee still. And I went to like 50,000 on TikTok or whatever. And then one night I posted this video where it's ironic because like I almost deleted this video because I was like, I probably shouldn't have posted. It was like Friday night. It's probably not the best time. And I don't really like the edit. Like, I'm a little jittery. Like, I don't really
Yeah.
I didn't feel good about,
Yeah.
because, in editing, you might move the frame over a little bit for it just feels better. But I posted it and I was like, "Ah, frick, I'll just change it tomorrow," you know? Well, I woke up and I had, like I went to bed with, like, 50,000 followers and, like, this video that I was, like, not quite satisfied with because like, I really liked this video, but
Yeah.
I'm like I woke up with, like, 200,000 followers,
Wow.
like, actually, and
Uh,
it was blowing up,
yeah.
and it ran for, like, a week. Like, I woke up with, like, I don't know how many tens of thousands of comments and, like or thousands of comments, views. I don't even know where it was at in the first day. I have screenshots probably. And that ran for, like, a week until that video got to, like, 30 something million views, and, like, my account was at, like,
Jeez.
half a million followers. It was insane. Just to, like, because your phone is, like
I mean, yeah,
it's,
it's
like,
just
just
nonstop.
moving, like,
Yeah.
it's all comments and stuff. It's
Yeah.
like watching a feed of it's wild.
Yeah.
But it was just, like, humbling because it's the same feeling I had when Norman went viral. It's just, like, I'm so glad to see people connecting with it. Like, it's just a that's the rewarding thing because
Yeah.
it's, like I guess I was in this video, but, like, with Norman, it was, like, they don't know who I am, but
Yeah.
I'm sitting here behind the scenes, like,
Yeah.
replying on behalf of this brand. And so, yeah, I started, like, doing this just on TikTok. And on Instagram, I still am not doing anything. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
posting videos. Like, I'm still just posting, like, a photo here and there.
Mhm.
And then I think that kinda unlocked this, like, okay, like, I feel a little bit freer to, create, like, without I just didn't give a shit, like
Mhm.
and so I started posting on Instagram too, and, now our agency's grown a little bit, and I'm back to, like, kinda where we were before, but we're focusing more on just building audiences for brands,
What's the
uh,
name of the agency?
Drafter.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Drafter Media, technically, Drafter's our software, but we're kinda merging more into, like,
Mm.
focusing on being a media company, and then my personal stuff's just Deep Snap, which was just like I bought deepsnap.com back in, like, 1998 because
Great.
I was a deep snapper. I bought it on Yahoo domains.
Beginnings of the internet.
Yeah, I built a Yahoo website. I wanted to, like my first, like, Deep Snap website was, like, ranking uniforms, like, who had the coolest uniforms in college football,
Whoa, that's
like,
cool.
back in high school when Yahoo had this janky website builder, and I built my dad's website for his
Wow.
gym, and, but I just, like I was a deep snapper in football, and I just bought deepsnap.com, and I kept renewing it for, like, decades.
Dude, that's so cool.
Yeah, and then I picked it up on Instagram, I picked it up on so then that's kinda like my real estate, I guess, around all the platforms.
I didn't even think about football with Deep Snap.
Yeah,
I thought about snapping photography.
it's like the perfect it just turned out to be a good word for, like, what I
Yeah.
do, like, it's a deep snap, like, you're a long snapper, deep snapper, and then, yeah, the photos and just the deep, moody
Yeah.
shit that I like to do, so
It's kind of it's just like a beautiful flow of, yeah, this combination of Deep Snap with football, and then you had this challenge with football that hindered your vision, and you eventually grew to a profession that's just you're very talented with this, and it requires you to have a good eye, right? And uh you've used the combination of Deep Snap with football, and I mean, it is, whether you meant to do it or not,
there
it
was a
doesn't it,
little bit of, like,
I mean, kind
this could
of,
work, but I
but the
didn't.
fact that you bought the website in 1998, it was intended for football,
Mhm.
and then it just kinda grew to,
Yeah, I had no idea about photography back then. Like, I'm grew
yeah,
up in Dallas, it's like Dallas Cowboys, there's
yeah,
no artists, or like, I guess there are, but creativity was not
yeah,
cultivated for me at a young age. I had to figure that out later. Um, so in a lot of ways, man, I feel like I've been making up for lost time just because of direction changes and, like,
yeah,
whatever, and even, like, not to go back to the drinking thing, but, like, I didn't really drink in my 20s, like, because I was training, so, like, I remember in 2009, I think, I was training for the 2010 Olympics. Obviously, I'm not an Olympian, but I was like that was the goal.
yeah,
I had, like, 4 beers that entire year, and it wasn't, like, a struggle. Like, I
mhm,
just if I had a beer, I was like, "Alright, I'll have one, like, every couple months,"
mhm,
because it's like, you're with your buddies or something, but it was like, you're so determined. It's like, "No, I'm not putting that in my body."
mhm,
Like, "I'm going to fucking like, it
yeah,
was just that
yeah, yeah,
crazy, especially when you start hanging out with the people you're going against.
mhm,
I used to watch the actual Olympians, like, not all of them. Some of them would drink their beers and just, like, kinda, like, be the freaks, you know?
mhm,
And there's some guys that were, like, blending all the different nutritional foods just so they're like, "Well, I can maybe absorb a little bit more if it's liquid f" and I'm like, "Y'all are too much," like, whether it was true or not, but, um Making up for lost time, man. I think that's part of where the obsession comes from, where it's just like, you're just like, you wanna get to a certain point, but,
I can totally relate
uh,
to that.
yeah.
Kind of in a way, this is
Yeah, when you find something, you're like, "Oh, this is what it is?" Yeah, you kinda feel like it's not a waste, anything you've been doing, but yeah, like
yeah. And I mean, I'm a little bit younger than you, but like in my mid 20s, so 2020, uh, I was 26, right? So I was still at like this, at least my perspective, the framework that I had. I was like, I should be at this place and I should be doing this and I should be at this point in my career and all these social norms that I had ingrained within my body or just within my just like my what I believed I should be doing. And yeah, I mean, I was let go from my job. Granted, I wasn't creating a company. I was a restaurant operations manager for a company that I really liked the culture. It was for Trillium Brewing Company. I don't know if you ever heard of Trillium. Um, but they were ranked like top 4 by beer.com, which is like a pretty good rank for like in the world, for microbrews at least. And, so it was just a very popular. It was bumping all the time in downtown Boston, and I was feeling like I was on a pretty good momentum. And then, yeah, I mean, lost a job and it totally changed directions, and never thought I would have came to Austin.
yeah.
But there's reasons for these challenges, right? And I would argue it's not wasted time. It got you, it got you to where you are now, and you probably feel, I would guess, but you can correct me if I'm wrong here, that you feel more fulfilled with this path that you're on.
Well, I think so one of my buddies actually said something interesting to me. He works with NFL quarterbacks,
Mhm.
and, like, he played in the NFL for a long time, but not really. Like, it's like you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. You're not really making the money, because it's like, "Well, dude, I played, like, 3 weeks." I didn't make $1,000,000, I made,
Yeah.
like, 80K, like, which is great, but you're training all year and not doing other things. And he said, he goes, "Dude, I think my secret weapon is that I wasn't that good." He's like, "'Cause if I had made $10,000,000, I wouldn't be working this hard." And
Mm.
he's like, "I freaking love what I do, and I would still love what I do, but I wouldn't grind." And he's like, his fulfillment's through the roof because he's able to, like, now he's able to serve guys in a different way, and he's like, "Yeah, my secret weapon is that I wasn't that good." And I think that, like, I keep pursuing these, like, home runs. I wanna go to the NFL. I wanna go to the Olympics. I wanna like, these are all the freaking hardest things to do. It's just like, I can't not do it. I don't know.
Mhm.
And I keep getting right to the edge, like, "Oh, I'm an alternate for the Olympics. Oh, I'm training camp with an NFL team.
Mhm.
Oh, we hit $1,000,000 and then fail." Like, I keep, like, getting right to this, like, crazy edge of success and then just ending up, like,
Mm.
homeless, basically, like, at my parents', like, "Well, I almost made a 6 figures this year in the NFL, but instead
Mhm.
I'm in my parents' living room."
Mm.
Like, there's always, like, that type of binary outcome. And, it's just, there's definitely perspective and learning from it. So it's definitely not wasted, but there's also kinda like I don't know, it's like if you fall in love or something, it's like, "Oh, can't believe I didn't know you my whole life," type of feeling. Like,
Mhm.
there's that, like, rush of, purpose or dopamine or whatever when you find something you're passionate
Yeah.
about. So you jump head first. Um, and it's weird to say, like, you talk about age and stuff, and I say TikTok and 30s, and it's like, "Oh, so you're just a grown ass man making a TikTok, huh?" And it's like, I just don't give a shit. Like, I just don't care.
It's just a tool, man. It doesn't matter what your age is, you know?
Yeah, and so, like, because you get haters when you go viral and over, and, which fine. I love it. I actually love, like,
Yeah. Fuels you.
I like replying to the most negative comments and, like, the most ironic, like, going anyway, I don't examples, but I like kinda trolling them, but in a funny, positive way. Like,
Mhm.
"Thanks for the comment," or something, but,
Mm.
no, but, like, this past year, like, talking about health and fail all this stuff, man, um I think there's, like, the pandemic was one thing that unlocked this, like, we all are like, "Life is short, who gives a shit?" Like, "Go for it," because it's like, I worked my ass off, it was taken away anyway, it's out of my control, and, like, I'm not gonna waste any time. That was one thing, but I had this moment, all the best things and all the worst things happened all at once. So, like, the post-concussion, all that stuff was probably the worst year of my life, but then, like, this past winter was probably the hardest. It's not the worst, it was hard. all the best things were happening and all the worst things. Because I had a bit of a health scare, and I don't really talk about this yet because it's kinda ongoing, but we got some answers at least. But I had a moment where I had a pain in my leg. I just got to Montana, I was sleeping on the river, and I just woke up with this pain in my freaking calf, and I had a cyst on my leg, like, behind my knee, and, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I got, like, this Baker cyst, it's from football, it's, like, this pre-arthritic thing," or, like,
Mhm.
whatever. So I thought. I wake up with this pain in my leg, and I'm like, "Oh, shit, maybe I have a blood clot from all this travel, I need to go maybe get this checked out," but then it kinda went away, kinda didn't, and it kinda just got worse for, like, a couple weeks. Like, I was like, "It's just getting worse," until one day I ended up in the ER where I was like, "I'm in so much pain, like, I need someone to fix it now." Like, I'm
Mhm.
in so much pain. I was level 10 to the point where I was in the waiting room, and I was, like, not waiting. Like, I went back up. I was like, "Do you guys have ice or like, I need an ice machine, something to, like, I'm in so much pain, I cannot wait." And, they finally, like, got me back there, did an ultrasound. I was like, "I think this blood clot or something in my it's gotta be."
Mm.
And they're like, "Nah, dude, you don't have a blood clot, but that's not a cyst. We don't know what that is." And, so, like, my stomach drops. I'm like, "Huh? I thought this was like I thought maybe I had a blood I thought there was different things going on." I was like, "No, no, that thing's causing the pain, and that's not a cyst." And, so now it's like, "Well, what the fuck is it?" I'm like, "I don't know. We gotta go get an MRI. We gotta do some tests."
Mhm.
And, now it's like I'm going into, like, this MRI, and I just remember walking into this hospital, and, I was like, "What if I have, like, stage 5 cancer or something, or that's what going through my mind. I was like, I thought I had nothing. Like, "Hey, here's some Advil or some aspirin or, like, blood thinners." That's what I'm thinking. Instead, it's like, "Oh, shit, like, what if I just totally fucked up and overlook," like, dude, plus pandemic, can't go to the hospital during the pandemic. So, like, I wasn't going to the doctor for anything because it's like they won't see anybody, and
Mm.
and then insurance, it was all like, "I'll just deal with it later because
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh, there's no big deal."
Yeah.
So I just like it's just, and it didn't bother me until that night. Um, so I'm walking in, I'm like, just like, what if this is like my worst nightmare, like the actual worst thing ever? And I was like, what am I gonna do? And I looked up at the sky and I was like, I'm gonna do exactly what I've been doing. So it was like the pandemic kind of like I just started doing adventure. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna drive around and take pictures. That's what I'm gonna do.
Mhm.
If I had 6 months to live, I'm gonna drive around and take pictures.
Mm.
And it was like this moment of like peace where I was like, dude, like I I can go in here and like you can tell me whatever it is, and like I kind of have no regrets. I can like die happy. And so when this went on for months, so this is like it was like the hardest time because for months I didn't know what was going on,
Mm.
and it took like 2 months to get a biopsy where it was like a surgery. But it turns out it's like I have this like weird. It is a tumor. It's a nerve tumor, but it's non-cancerous, and it's just I'm gonna have surgery.
Okay.
But for a while there, dude, I didn't know, and like during this time, I went viral. And so it was like this flood of like
Emotions,
emotions and
yeah.
like what the going on.
Whoa.
Um, so it was like all the best things and all the worst things. Like it's like I love my life. I'm extremely fulfilled, but like how much do I have?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just I think that was like one of the silver linings of like I guess this pandemic where it destroyed like this business and this dream I thought I had. But then it like unlocked this like new fulfillment, and now like what's cool about it is like I'm able to like connect with people all around the world through the content and encourage them and give people pointers and
Yeah.
tutorials, and I'm like helping other photographers and people that are like, how do I adventure? And like I'm able to help people kind of feel the same thing I do. Cause in that moment, man, it was like literally like, just that peaceful moment of like knowing I wouldn't change anything was like way, cause the worst thing you want to feel is like it was wasted,
Mhm.
or uh I can't believe I let all this time go by and I didn't, whatever. And like
Mhm.
when people are on their deathbed, man, they always just are like talking about their families, and I wish I would have like gone on that trip with my buddy or said I love you to my dad, or whatever. And then like on tombstones it doesn't say he was a great CEO, or I mean maybe it will on some, but it'll say he was a great husband or father or friend, or it won't say he took good pictures. And so it's like I think like all that stuff really unlocks a deep sense of gratitude, and like you just stop giving a shit. And it's like I don't care about legacy, cuz like I don't even know my great granddad's name. Like if I don't even know my family heritage, who no one's going to talk. Like no one who cares? If other people care about that, great, I want to help you. I don't really care about mine. All I care about is like right now in the moment, and
Mhm.
like can I do something positive in the moment? 'Cause I am not a positive person by nature. I've had to work hard at like practicing. And there are things I try to do, and I talk about it a little bit in the newsletter, but like actively trying to be more optimistic, more positive, more thankful, instead of being this like way I was in my 20s where I'm just always finding something to bitch about, you know? And then looking back and like, dude, you had so much. Like you were so freaking spoiled and like privileged and all that. And so yeah, it's been a wild ride to get to this point, and just
Mm.
now it's like it kind of that's why I'm like getting deeper and deeper into like I'm just moving into my car to make more content. And I think that's part of like what Austin is. As much as I love Austin, it's like no, I don't ever touch my camera here, you know. So I just want to submerge myself into the space where I feel most inspired, and
Mm.
that's the mountains. So I'm just like moving into my car and saying, "F it," like I'm gonna fucking make as much as I could possibly can.
Man, that was beautiful. I'm very excited to see where you go from here, and thank you for sharing those challenges because that is what makes life fulfilling. I mean, in a way, I mean, the failures, the challenges, the health scares, they once again remind you of gratitude towards, oh, wait, like now I only want one thing, it's just to be healthy again.
Yeah.
And then you start thinking about, wow, like what I'm doing, I'm immersed in nature, even just looking around sometimes, like looking around when you're in a jungle or you're in the mountains or you're in nature. Sometimes people just walk and they're constantly counting their steps.
Hmm.
They're looking at their Apple iWatch. They're not in the moment as much, and that's maybe a good majority of people nowadays, at least in America. When you have these scares, it just brings back the knowing of mortality, and it revitalizes your appreciation for everything around you. Um, I recently was reminded about that. We could talk about health scares real quick. Thursday, did like a park workout, and man, towards the end, I started getting really itchy everywhere. My armpits, my neck, my face, and I'm like, all right, I gotta go back to my apartment, maybe shower or something because we were doing bear crawls. We were in Zilker Park, so I was thinking maybe it was the fertilizer or something. And I'm in the car and I fucking blow up everywhere from my feet to my skull to my arms to my entire face, my eyelids, my lips, everything. And I'm like looking at myself in my camera on my phone. I'm like, holy shit. And the thought that comes up is like, okay, well, it's an allergic reaction, clearly. I have major hives, major swelling everywhere. And so I kept my calm, but the one thought in the back of my mind was, is my throat going to close up?
Mm.
So I'm thinking that could happen. So I rushed to CVS. So I forgot my wallet, and I only have like one credit card right now, and I don't have like Apple Pay set up and all this shit. I have the credit card information though on like just somewhere on my phone. And this woman at CVS was like, we don't have the ability to type in your credit card information. It's only Apple Pay or you tap your credit card. And I was like, do you see me right now? Can you just help me out here? She's like, I'm sorry. I can't sell this to you. I was like, are you
I'm just gonna
okay?
open it.
Cause no, I just like, I was pissed, but I was at the same time like, I'm gonna die, like maybe, and so I like ran out. Then I'm thinking, she was like, there's an ER like 3 minutes away. So I thought about going there. I didn't. I went back to my apartment, got my credit card, went to a different CVS, got a fucking Allegra. Yeah, it's fucking unreal. Uh,
I can't let you have this Allegra to save.
I'm like, you're a fucking CVS pharmacy. Your primary like
Throw me a bone.
mission is to like help people recover from certain ailments, and it's like I'm about to potentially have an allergic reaction that could kill me, and you're just not
If
gonna
you're in
help
San
me.
Francisco, you could have just taken it.
Yeah, right. Um. So, anyways, I take this antihistamine. Within a couple hours, I'm good. Right. But my right foot and my right thigh, it had to be a B. I've
Mm,
got some weird marks on my foot and my thigh, and so or something. I don't know, some insect, but it definitely it's just a reminder because that's never happened. It has never gotten that bad.
yeah.
So I'm gonna do some work to. I've got some awesome resources here. That's not even just like, oh, go get some EpiPens because my parents were like, you should probably get some EpiPens, right?
Wow.
But I've got a friend of a friend, so I've got friends that can help with um working on the neurological aspect of it, which kind of blows my mind. Like my friend knows someone that can help with major allergies. That isn't just like a over the counter take a pill thing. It's potentially something working with your nervous system, or which is
Mm.
kind of crazy to me. I don't have much information, but I'm gonna go ask. And anyways, it was a big reminder that you don't live forever, and when you have those moments, it's so. I mean, all these cliches, they're so true though. They're
Mm.
reminders of the importance of living in the present. I like how you said that, legacy and Naval. We were talking about Naval Ravikant. He's got the Almanac of Naval.
Yeah.
I've read that book like a dozen times. A lot of wisdom bombs there. And he just talks about like, don't be so torn or stressed about your legacy.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Sumerians? Probably not. One day we're going to look back and be like, you remember the Americans? I think so, you know? And I don't really know never met my grandfather on my dad's side. I don't really know my my great great grandparents' names. Uh, Maybe at an earlier time, that was much more well known. Family tree was much more just of like just integrated into your mindset and memory. But that's so cool that you were able to, in that moment, say, what I'm doing right now is what I would be doing if I had, let's say, 3 months to live, 6 months to live.
And I'll say too, I'm very anti-toxic positivity. Like I say, like you got to process negative shit. You got to like work through, like you got
Yeah.
to feel
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm not one to spin it positive.
Yeah. You got to be realistic at
That
times.
was not a, hey man, look at the bright. That was not what. That was like a genuine. What am I gonna do? And then like it was a realization. It
Yeah.
wasn't being positive. It wasn't being optimistic. Trust me, that's not my nature.
Yeah.
It was like an actual like, oh shit, I'm good. Like it was that. And so, yeah, I hope everyone can like feel that way. You
Yeah.
know, like can feel. I don't not feel like going in the ER. Or anything. Like I don't want people to feel that way. But no, feeling like a sense of like no looking back and no regrets. I just, man, I hope everyone can feel that because
Yeah.
there's so much shit. This is not where I like with the blood pressure thing. I was looking back and I remember like, okay, what is our service? Like we do media production. So really it's, if you boil it down to, it's like a tweet sometimes or an Instagram post. Yes. When it's a big brand, a big client, that's PR, that's like, you got to make sure stuff's spelt right. The
Mhm.
graphics are like, those are very professional, deliverable. Like at the end of the day, it's like a fucking social media post, you know?
Mhm.
So I'd always remind myself, like, am I really gonna like stroke out over a Facebook post?
Oh,
Like,
shit.
yeah, yes, it correlates and relates to like how I pay my employees and put
Yeah.
food on my table and maybe
Yeah.
provide for yes, so that is the
Yeah.
livelihood. But at the end of the day, you know, like,
Mhm.
is it worth it? You know, and so I've tried to put that into the new direction we're on,
Yeah.
and like with the leadership and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, every single moment of your life, whether it's work, your career, or social media post, that's going to go potentially very viral because you're dealing with a pretty affluent person. Or if it's just like you got 3 kids and one of those kids got in big trouble at school and you find out about it. And it's like, am I really going to get super stressed, like stress my body and stress my mind and then maybe react in a way that stresses my son. Granted, he needs to be disciplined in a way, but yeah, there's been a few moments that recently, but just over the course of my life where I've recognized that, like especially with this blowing up with hives.
Yeah.
In the moment of like in the car, I was watching. I would like keep looking at myself in the mirror. I
Yeah,
would
when you're out of control, when you like are like,
yeah,
"I don't have any
I have
control."
no control over what's
No,
happening,
it's
right?
terrifying.
Maybe I don't know if I could have done some fucking, I don't know, but as I was watching, like it was getting worse and worse. I knew internally, I was like, well, I can still stay calm,
Yeah,
like, and I did,
yeah,
and I think because my body was fighting something, my immune system was fighting something, my heart rate was just naturally very high too. But internally, I was calm. It was uncomfortable. It was fucking itchy as shit, and it looked crazy. But with it's just a lesson to learn. Like no matter how maybe negative or detrimental an event can be within your life, like you just have to understand that more stress in your body doesn't. I mean, I hesitate to say it doesn't help because your body reacts in that way so that you can fight danger and it's,
yeah.
a survival mechanism, right? But in a modern scenario, it's not healthy, right? It doesn't work out as much. But um, so yeah, man, that's so cool. I loved your leading up to that. Um, and so I took a lot of notes here on different parts of your journey since you've been going on this. There's one that comes to mind. I always want to like really see if this was real or not. You took a picture at Zion National Park, and you said right after you took the picture, Leonardo DiCaprio showed up.
Yeah.
Was that fake?
No, it was real.
Seriously?
Yeah.
He just showed up?
Well, it was so this is like mid-COVID, and so everyone's in masks, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not in a national park, but if you wear a mask, it's not weird. And so it was kind of a free pass for celebrities to go out and do things.
Mm.
And so I was sitting there eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on the Zion Overlook, and this dude looks over the edge, which it's a fucking drop
Yeah.
off. It's dangerous, and there's no guardrail. It's just you're in a park, and he just like says something, and I thought he's like in this like suede jumpsuit with this stupid looking like hat and like trendy glasses, and I'm thinking he's European tourist, like that's what I was thinking because he was just not. He just looked like he was like from a different country style wise, and he said something. I thought he said it in a different language, like like whatever. And then his group of friends, I just thought like the girl that he was with, and then like the guy, the older man, and like I was looking at these people, I was like, God, these people look like they could be in a movie or something. Like I was literally thinking that, like, such a
Mm.
unique group. Because then he was like, "Oh, hey, Jim." So he went from like sounding like a foreigner to like sounding really articulate and just
Mhm.
American.
Mhm.
"Hey, Jim, this is the shot. Y'all stand here." And I'm like watching. I'm like, this is such a weird group of people. Like I'm like, what's going on? And then he adjusts his mask, and I'm like, that's fucking Leonardo DiCaprio. It was him.
Holy
And I
shit.
was like, and then I looked at this girlfriend, and I looked up, I was like, "Who's Leo dating?" I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
any.
yeah.
And he was dating this chick Camila or something. Like she's
Okay.
famous. I don't know who she is. And she didn't have a mask on or anything. She's just hanging out. And it's like, oh yeah, that's her. And she's in her Instagram was like, I'm in, this the Grand Canyon and
Mhm.
whatever. I was like, holy crap, that's really Leo. And then like someone else said something, and they were like, no pictures, and I was,
Wow.
so then like we all hiked back as a group. I just kind of like ended up, cause it's a narrow trail and you
Mhm.
kind of get like cornered or whatever. So I'm just like hiking in between them, like the whole thing, just thinking like, this is so weird. I'm like, Leo can be doing anything he wants in the whole world. We're doing the same thing right now. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
That is
But
cool.
yeah, it was a funny moment.
Damn. I thought you were just playing a joke or
No, it
something.
was
I
actually,
had to confirm. I had
it
to
was actually
confirm.
Leo.
Wow. Well, if Leo, you see this, was he the one wearing the jumpsuit?
Yeah.
You're wearing a stupid jumpsuit, bro.
Hey, he can do whatever he wants, man. I just thought it was funny. I was like, it's an interesting like hiking uniform.
Um, what what were some of the? It seems like Montana was a part of the U.S. because you've gone to Montana, San Francisco, different parts of Hill Country, Texas, Idaho,
Yeah.
um, Oregon coast. I love the Goonies post
Yeah.
that you had. I love the movie, and the picture you took really reminded me of when they're like trying to put up the map or whatever and face it or, like, have it,
Yeah, they filmed it over there.
yeah. Was that the spot too?
I think so.
Okay.
I didn't, like, try to position it, but, someone was like, "I think this is where they filmed the Goonies." I'm like, "Oh, shit."
Yeah, that's cool. It is Montana your favorite
Yeah,
spot?
Montana feels like kinda like my home base now. Like, Austin's home, but, like, I'm more or less moving to Montana. Like, I'm gonna see if I can buy something up there.
S I mean, that's been one part, maybe it's because I watched, like, multiple seasons of Yellowstone,
Yeah, everyone's
and
I haven't seen it yet.
yeah, it's really good, but, just in general, seeing the geographical landscape, it's like, wow, they've got well, they don't have oceans, but, like, the beauty of nature there is so amazing, and, it's really captured me, and I was like, "You know what? Maybe I could consider, like, working from home or remotely there for, like, I don't know, some time just to check it out." So it seems because a lot of your pictures, I just noticed, maybe it's just because of my bias here, but, we're in Montana, and there was some beautiful.
A lot of them are, yeah. I mean, I more or less, I spend months in Montana at a time, so
Mhm.
I'll be there. Like, my car's in San Diego right now or Orange County, and so I'm gonna go fly to I basically leave my car on the road.
Yeah.
So I have, like, set up here, and then I call it my vacation home, like, I fly to my car. That's how I'm able to do this, like,
Mm.
so consistently and all over the country and stuff. 'Cause it's like, "Dude, you just live on the road?" I'm like, "I mean, sometimes." Like, I flew out for, like, 2 weeks, came back,
Mhm.
fly out for 2 months, come back. Like, it
Mhm.
just depends, and now I'm gonna go more back into full in and try to find a place in Montana and live up there, but, um, I'm gonna go to my car, drive to San Diego, and then I'm either gonna go through California, like Yosemite and Tahoe, or go over to Utah, Jackson Hole, and
Mhm.
I'll end up over there in the Flathead Valley by Glacier, and yeah, so Montana's just kinda there's a few elements, and I've found this, like, I know I'm in the right place when I keep my camera handy. If I don't have the urge to keep if I'm not burning through batteries, because it's like, no, I want my camera on, lens
Mhm.
cap off, because holy shit, the way those clouds are moving over that mountain right now, like, I will, like, be going 70, like, pull over on a shoulder really fast, turn around, and just, like,
Yeah.
grab that shot. Like, I'm taking pictures constantly when I'm on the road.
Mm.
My camera is collecting dust here in Austin. That's why
Mm.
I'm like, I need to move because I'm
Yeah.
like a different human.
Yeah.
But there's something about the mountains, the layers, the lighting, and then the wildlife. It's different, man. Like, I have some friends in like the van life community or overlanding community. Start building like friends and relationships that are from people all over that you
Mhm.
like will run into or something. And, I've seen people make comments because most people are like, in California, they go down to the Baja, like, coast and, like, Mexico and the desert and stuff. I tend to stay in, like, Montana or Jackson Hole, and there is just an edge when you know that there's, like, bears around,
Mhm.
and so, like, you gotta put your food up.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta make sure your shit's tight, and, like, there's, like, an edge. I kinda like that fear. I kinda like knowing, like, there could be a grizzly like, you have to keep bear spray on you. The
Mhm.
one time the one time I did not carry bear spray, I ran into a bear, and I was fucking terrified,
Do you wanna get into that?
and we can.
Because you do have some footage of bears fighting, right?
Yeah, that was, like, more of a contained situation.
Okay.
I was in West Yellowstone during a blizzard, and there's a nature preserve.
Okay.
Instead of putting these bears down because 'cause they're too dangerous in the park, so, like, they're
Mm.
going up to cars, and it's like these bears are the types of bears that end up killing people because 'cause
Yeah.
they're trying to get to food, so they put them in the sanctuary in West
Okay.
Yellowstone, and so I just happened to be there in a blizzard. It
Mhm.
was fucking awesome. I got
Yeah.
all this footage of bears in the blizzard, which no one gets really
Yeah.
because 'cause they're usually hibernating, so that was awesome.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I was in Jackson Hole, and I wanted to shower, and I was like, "I'm just gonna walk down to this tree because there's some people around me." So I walked down, and it's like you go to the gym. It's like, "Oh, I forgot my flip-flops." You always I just kinda forgot my bear spray. I was like, "Ah, it's alright, my car's right there."
Mhm.
So I start showering. I'm butt ass naked. I went down a tree, and I was like, I need to, like, do a full shower. Cause sometimes you, like, wash your face or whatever, but
Mhm.
this was like, "No, I'm nasty." Like, been
Mhm.
out here for a few days. And, I clean off my body, and it's like, "Alright." I'm just like, I feel spooky. I'm like a puss. Like, I'm scared of, like, I'm not like a bold dude in the woods. I'm like scared of bears and
Mhm.
shit. Like I don't like getting far from my car, and because I bump into them when I do. Um, and I'm like about to do the scary part, your eyes and hair, where it's like ears, my senses are gonna be compromised. And like I'm like getting my hair wet, and I hear like a crack, and I'm like, it's probably a squirrel, but I'm like, I just don't feel right. Like I don't know if it's just I'm getting the heebie-jeebies or if like my senses are going off, and I'm like, F it, I'm going back to my car. So I walk back out to my car and I start washing my hair. And I look down and there's a giant grizzly bear like 10 yards to the right of where I just was. And I'm just like, just eye to eye with this grizzly, which you're not supposed to look him in the eye, like, and I'm
Yeah.
just like frozen. I'm like, oh my God. And I was just like, there's this dude, and this led to one of the best nights of my life. So like, I'm like, there's this dude, like, I can't remember his name. We'll call him Kevin. And he's just like this old, like 60-something-year-old biker guy, just like brings a tent and his Harley and his fucking Colt 45 and like just, he just cool dude though. Like I was like, Kevin, there's bear in camp. And there's this other girl. And I was like, I just wanted people to be aware. I was
Mhm.
like, hey, there's a bear in our camp,
Mhm.
like, and he comes over where he's got his gun. And I'm sitting here like, oh, he went that way. And we like kind of chased this bear over, like not chase, but kind of like we're kind of watching him. He went over this ridge. I didn't get a photo. I just bought my new telephoto lens and I didn't have it set up yet. And I took a shot and it focused on the leaf in front of him. So I have no photos of
Ah,
this bear.
shit.
I have like a blurry one from like way far. And so me and Kevin are sitting by the campfire that night. And we got Indian flute music playing, just like this, and I have like a clip on my Instagram of this actual fire and actual from that night,
Okay.
like an old video, like before I started really making stuff. And Kevin's like messing with the fire, like just doing stuff. When you get like camp, you're just like kind of like
Yeah.
almost not present. You're like working with your hands. And I just took a moment. I looked up and like there's the silhouette of the trees with the stars and the Milky Way in the background. And I'm just like looking around and like hearing just like the crackle and then this like Indian flute music and like, but other than that, just dead silence. Like we're in the wilderness. And I go, Kevin, I was like, I know we're like busy and looking down the fire, but I was like, hey, if you just pause for a moment and look around, I was like, we got the stars, this fire, and there's a fucking bear somewhere around us right now. I was like, dude, we are in the wilderness. And he was like, that's right, brother. And gives me a big hug. He's had some whiskey. He's like, and I'm just like hugging this Harley guy in the middle of Jackson Hole. And I was like, this is the best day of my life.
That's awesome.
So you get some moments like that, man, that are terrifying. But you
Yeah.
look back and I'm like, now that I'm like healthy, it's kind of like just anything. Like now that I can look back and like I'm kind of safe, God, it was fucking amazing.
Mm.
So I like that kind of edge you get.
Yeah. There's one post, this reel that I really liked, and I love the music too. So I'm big into. I mean, everybody loves music, but
Yeah, you're a DJ and all that.
yeah, kinda. I mean, not necessarily a DJ, but I started playing drums when I was 8 years old, and I've got this MPC music production center where I can like drum on the pads, but also create different stuff with the piano and whatnot. But yeah, the music that you've intertwined with your footage is everyone. I'm like, I love this.
Nice.
Got good taste in music. And when there was one, it's Coulter Wall. I'm happy when I'm lonesome, I think.
I'm lonesome but happy.
Yeah, lonesome, but I'm happy. And yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Are there moments where you feel lonely? Because I was speaking to someone at I actually went to another story night, and it was at my buddy Hutch's place, and Zach did it virtually because
Mm.
he's in
Yeah.
like Asia right now.
Yeah.
But it was great that he did it, and it was his birthday. And one of the small kind of you know breakout sessions, one guy just said like multiple times he just finds himself traveling and he's in beautiful areas, but he can't get the lonesome feeling out of him, and it's just like ruins the moment. It seems like it's like your nature to go out and be on your own in these beautiful, like the most beautiful areas of the United States. And do you ever find yourself like, um, feeling lonely in a more like negative way, or it seems like you're
I
right.
feel I would say I feel lonelier in the city when I'm surrounded by
Huh.
people with no connection.
Wow.
And
Okay.
when I'm in nature, I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. And I do want to share it with someone. And if you go for too long, it can get a little lonesome. But there's something about the nature. Like feel I'm more obsessed, not obsessed. I'm more like inspired to create and like just be an artist and all that. And so there's like more of a sense of purpose. Whereas like if I'm in the city, like I lived in San Francisco for a while, and there and even Austin now, like not Austin before when I was more networking and whatever, but now it's like I do feel lonelier here than I do when I'm on the road or exploring. So it's a little different. And that video you're talking about, that was actually Christmas that I filmed that. I was camping in outside of Tombstone, Arizona on Christmas
Mm.
Day, and uh like spent Christmas alone in the desert, and it was great. Like I mean, I'm not like not in like a negative like
Yeah.
whatever way, but I was like family has its own stresses, you know. And but I was just like, I just kind of want to like get away from stuff. What I do I wish like a best friend was there, a girlfriend. Like I love traveling with
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
ex-girlfriend. Like we did have a great didn't work out for those whatever reasons, for obvious reasons that I could, you know. But
Mhm.
like as far as like sharing that with someone and
Yeah.
exploring, it's definitely better. And there's one clip with her that's like from that same video, like it's the same scene. This is like just the most amazing day. Like honestly, I think that day probably has like a big chunk of my feed probably came from one day because it
Mhm.
was just like shoulder season. The
Mm.
leaves are changing, and then the storm came in. We drove way up to Bowman Lake and like way up North Glacier. I mean, you're right by Canada and there on the west side of Glacier, northwest side. And it's just like this blue, moody like scene and no one's there. But like I sit next to her on a log and this track I picked on that song was like, I want to be alone or alone with you, basically,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Is like the line. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be alone with you, if that makes sense. And I like to me that's like would be my ideal fulfillment is where
Mm.
it's like just being alone with someone that you're sharing it with. It's kind of like you again. It's just us against the world, but it's just like it's just us on an adventure
Mm.
or whatever. As long as I got like one person. So ultimately I think that's like where I would be most fulfilled. But as far as like being alone, I think that nature's pretty fulfilling, and then like around people without connections lonelier.
Yeah. That hit hard, and I totally understand what you're saying. If you're just I mean, it's John Mayer's, I know, no, that's not I'm thinking of a different song, but yeah, feeling lonely in a crowded room. I was thinking of
Yeah, yeah.
s like
That's
slow dancing in a burning room,
oh yeah,
but it doesn't have anything to do with, like, feeling lonely in a crowded room.
remix.
Yeah. Um, but that's happened for
Yeah.
probably a good amount of people. I mean, for me, for sure, and where you're just you're not connecting to anybody in this urban area or this party or social gathering, and feels even more lonely. You're like, because you're looking at everybody around you, you're like, why am I not being social? Like, I'm just not connecting with these people. We don't have much in common or whatever. That's yeah, that's really cool. Um, there's one. I don't know if it was in one of your articles or one of your posts on Instagram, but you talked about the long game. So I
Mm.
think it's one is your it's an article, but there was also a post that you expressed having a lot in store for the future. And so, um, yeah, I've got something you noted here in your article. There's a Japanese word for it,
Ikigai.
ikigai.
Yeah.
So passion equals skill plus love. Profession equals skill plus money. Vocation equals money plus contribution, and mission equals love plus contribution. And I was wondering if you wanted to share, maybe not share too much or reveal
Yeah.
anything, but because like there was another post, not to get too far here, but you said like, not sure if this is my passion, but it's something that I desire.
Mm.
And I wonder how you could formulate this because mission equals love plus contribution. How you could formulate it into something that would be a mission. Because right now it seems it's a desire, but also a passion too.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. So ikigai is, and I might butcher it, but there's basically like, it's like what what you love, what you can be paid for, what you can contribute to the world, and what you're good at. And if you can find the Venn diagram of all of that, you have your true ikigai. And that's essentially the like what we're all seeking. It's like,
Mhm.
well, I don't really love my job, or what's my passion, and you might not always get everything, but like if you can, it's like this
Yeah.
existential like perfect thing. And so playing the long game for me, like I've always been short-sighted. It's like I want to do this, achieve this, and like instead of saying like, hey, like for a startup, for example, it's like, hey, if we don't hit revenue by August, we're shutting it
Mhm.
down. It's like, okay, well, that's one way to look at it for sure. And that's a very real thing in business. Like, how
Yeah.
much runway do we have? For me, it's like, well, okay, remove financial pressures then, because it's like, are we trying to like make this business make money? Or am I like, no, I want to solve this problem?
Mm.
So like for me, the long game has shifted from like, it has nothing to do with like vanity metrics or whatever. It's like, no, I want to, create the best, I want to be the best artist I possibly can be, period. And I want to help as many people and inspire. I don't sometimes it's like I just want to inspire people. But
Mhm.
it's like, no, I actually feel like looking at my DMs and the shit that I get, like
Mhm.
there's some heavy shit in my DMs,
Yeah.
heavy stuff, like people pouring their guts out to me
Mm.
and like sharing some dark stuff of like just the connection they felt. And they're like, I went back to Montana for the first time since this horrible thing happened, like
Mm.
crazy stories. And so for me, it's like, okay, I've just like I've restructured my entire business and entrepreneurial everything around this mission of saying like I just want to like kind of nudge people to adventure more and help like my audience shifted from like it's funny, it was like 80% women on TikTok,
Mm.
and then when I started going viral for the new type of content that I really feel like is my kind of, I guess you say, creative expression, now it's like 93% men.
Mm.
Like it just completely shifted.
Wow.
And so it's like, I really feel like hell, like, I just feel called now, and I've felt like this a long time. I actually came up with this phrase, like, pre-pandemic, but didn't execute on it because I was like, didn't align with what I was doing professionally, is helping men whose identity is on the line. And for me, that's been like the transition from like football to entrepreneurship,
Mhm.
entrepreneurship to adventure. Like, it's always like this identity, like ego death that I'm trying to like reconcile. And how do you do that with grace, with for yourself, empathy, and in these different ways, whilst being kind of entrepreneurial,
Mhm.
solopreneur, um, health conscious, like just trying to do it in a way that's holistic.
Mm.
And so now it's like, okay, I got to be lean. I got, cash is oxygen in entrepreneurship. I'm pulling back, shifting from like a tech company to a media company, focusing more on like the service element. And I was like, I'm literally like doing a 180. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
we're going product. Now we're going actually this route. And so like getting away from this product and going to like, we're launching a coffee brand here
Mm.
soon. And the whole thing is like it's mission based. It's,
Yeah.
it's based around the thing. So long game for me is just like, you got to have a long-term, like, uh, time horizon. Cause if you're too short, you're going to miss out on the skill development, the relationship development, the network development,
Mhm.
and you're going to start you might jump around too much. And so I think long game is just like spending time on identifying what you're passionate, like finding that ikigai, like
Mhm.
as much as you can. And I think too many of us, and I'm talking about a lot of times when if I sound like I'm bitching to someone in a
Yeah.
comment, I'm talking to my younger self.
Yeah.
That's like actually some part of my muse
Mm.
is I'll like grab my 25-year-old self and like, dude, you don't need more time. You need better priorities. Like, if I had more time, no, you need better like, I'm
Mhm.
literally yelling at my younger self, or like,
Yeah.
"Hey, just because you haven't mastered this yet, don't switch like,
Yeah.
stick it out, dude. Just because you're not making enough money, don't chase the dollar." And so,
Mhm.
um, I was very short-sighted growing up. Um, and so, yeah, I think that that's just, having the patience to develop a skill, because that overlap of, like, what I'm good at and what I can be paid for, those little elements of the diagram, it's like, yeah, like, for a while, you're just gonna have to make ends meet while these other things you might not know what you love.
Mm.
I didn't,
Yeah.
it shifted. I was good at photography and liked it when I was like 27, 25, and then I went this route because people would pay me for this.
Mhm.
And then I didn't realize I was that, so it's all kinda come full circle, and I'm
Yeah.
definitely a slow learner, But, I don't have, like, that structure completely outlined, but that's kind of the gist of, like, what the story behind that is. Ikigai is an interesting, established like, whenever I write the newsletter, I always like, well so I work with one of my marketing girls on, like, what we wanna accomplish,
Mhm.
like, what's the message? We'll brain dump, and then I'll, like, say, "We gotta look up psychological, terminology or any clinical studies or on these things, because 'cause I'm
Mm.
not trying to reinvent the wheel."
Yeah.
It's like someone smarter than
Yeah.
me has already studied this and is a master at this, and so it's like, well, let's just say, like, here's what we're thinking we wanna convey or explore, and then let's research and unpack it and see, like, "Oh, turns out there is a study on this. It turns
Mm.
out there is a term. It turns out there is a 200-year-old structure for this."
Mhm.
And so, just, like, curating. Really,
Yeah.
I'm just a curator, dude. I'm not anything more than a curator. I combine scenes with music, with studies, with I am just a curator. That's
Yeah.
all I do. Like, I'm not really I mean, I create photos or whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, again, it's curating. I
Mhm.
go find a mountain and take a picture. I get a camera and a mountain, and I'm curating them together. That's really all it is.
Mm. Love that, man. Well, I think that's a great way to conclude. Um, I usually have guests just relay where they can find you, which you've already kind of mentioned. But if you want to reiterate and just mention, you know, your where people can see more of your content.
Yeah, just deep snap everywhere on social. Deep snap and try to keep it simple.
Yeah,
Any platform. That's where I'm at.
yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
Appreciate
dude.
it, man. And
Thanks for having me.
yeah, awesome. Peace out, everybody.